Today we're talking about navigating the education system and the basics. So we don't work within the education system. We do a lot of communicating and collaborating with families and their and the schools to help make sure that that our kids are getting what they need in their school journey to be able to participate and attend. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay, so our objectives today are to bring some understanding to the school system and its various components, advocating for support, and strategies for success. And just some acknowledgements to start off. School is a major part of children and youth's development for socialization, peer support, learning, of course, routine, daily routine, and respite for the families, as well as access to support services. At the same time, school can be a source of stress for both children and parents for a multitude of reasons, and ongoing staff shortages, both within education, teachers, and healthcare can, exacerbate those stresses. And lastly, you as parents know your child better than anyone else, so you're the most important part of this team when talking about navigating the system. So to start off, we're just going to go through some of the key people that are there within the school team to support your kids. Of course, the classroom teacher, teachers, the resource teacher, which is a special education teacher that works outside the classroom and can help with implementing special education programs, either individually or with small groups. We have the principal, educational assistant, guidance counselor, and then we have our school-based rehab services. So we have OT, PT, that can be referred to either by the school or by the health care professionals. And school-based rehab, so they can come into the school, assess and make recommendations to help students access the curriculum, to make accommodations, and to recommend equipment, create programs that can be carried out at school or at home, and ensure safe participation for our kids. And they tend to work in a consultative service model, so they're not going to be coming to the school to do ongoing therapy, but coming to address needs as they arise. I'm just going to go through some of the terms, some of the tools within the school board, and this is based on Ontario, where we are, so things might be a little bit different across different provinces in Canada. But some of the terms that you will likely have come across, the IPRC is the Identification, Placement, and Review Committee. So this committee decides if a student meets criteria of exceptionality and in what area, can be physical, which we're mainly talking about in our boys with Duchenne, but also intellectual, behavioral, communicational, and sometimes multiple or all of them. So a child with Duchenne might also have another diagnosis of autism or learning disabilities, so that can all be taken into account. And this committee would decide on appropriate placement for the student, whether it's in a regular classroom or in a special education classroom. And it's reviewed at least annually. So every child who is identified as exceptional must have an IEP, which is an individualized education plan, which is a written plan that outlines accommodations and services required by a particular student. And it's based on their identified strengths and their needs. And every student that has an exceptionality must have an IEP. You don't have to be designated as having an exceptionality to have an IEP. And it is a legal document. So it's like a contract with your school that stays with your child throughout their school years and is also revisited annually and updated as needed. CEA funding, special education amount, is a source of funding through the school board for items or equipment that have been recommended for a child. This can be specialty desk and chairs, computer system, lift equipment, really it can be small items, handwriting aids and that kind of thing. So that is just a source of funding that exists. And some supporting documents that can be useful in advocating for services and for completing the IEP, diagnosis letter, assessments by OT, PT, neuropsychology or psychoeducation assessment, and there are many others. And then there's a neuromuscular team with medical specialists, as we talked about this morning, neurology, endocrinology, respirology, orthopedics, cardiology, and physiatry or rehab physician. We have a social worker, neurocognitive psychologist, physiotherapist, occupational therapist, dietitian, and also some specialty clinics such as the seating and mobility team that we can refer to, or the Clinic for Augmentative Communication, which helps to prescribe technology for communication, computer access, and things like that. So all of the school team and medical team, it's really important that we all communicate and work together because some of us will have different areas of expertise and different focuses that can work together. So key to success is communication and teamwork. And I'm going to turn it over to Mireille to talk a little bit about communication.
So we heard it from Elijah. I really like someone's question out there around how do we navigate the system? What do we do for school? How do we talk to school? And he thought there for a moment and he said, we got to communicate, right? And this is why we feel very strongly in the neuromuscular clinic that working collaboratively is a big success to awareness, navigating the system, and putting in strategies and supports. So again, there's not just communication, but there's also many accommodations. So the what do we do with the school, as well as providing education, because here in the room and online, most of us know what Duchenne is, know the prognosis, know the diagnosis, understand the illness, understands what that entails, both for the child, but also for the parents and their environment. The school system don't necessarily know what Duchenne muscular dystrophy is. So I wanted just to take a couple of slides here to just talk about communication, right? So some things to think about before we communicate with the school. As you know, I'm a social worker, so I'm all about emotions, right? Let me tell you, when Elijah was talking, I'm holding my breath and I'm thinking, I just want to give this guy a hug because I want to clone him and I want him to come and talk to all the boys that I work with on a daily basis to give them hope that it is possible to have a successful journey with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And when we're talking about communication, for parents and for kids, we need to know where you're at. Like I am lucky to accompany a lot of families through this journey from diagnosis and onwards until they're 18. And one of the key factors that I've been noticing is timing is key, right? You've just been told your child has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. There's a lot of involvement. There's a lot of implications and emotions related to that. There's a lot of grief. And then you walk into a meeting at school and they say, oh, your child has Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and they just go on. So it's important for you as a parent, it's important for you as a child to let the people in your journey, the medical team, the school team, your therapist, where are you at as a parent and as a child? Because you are going to guide the journey with regards to what information you choose or not to choose. And this is a choice of yours. Also, what do you want to share? Some families live right here, right now. Right now, I can only handle and live with the fact that my child's been diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I don't want to talk about a year from now or 2 years from now. I want to talk about right here, right now. What are you going to do for me? Something to consider. What's your goal? You're meeting the school today. You're going to ask yourself, what's my desired outcome? What do I want to see happen here? Do I want accommodations? Do I just want to not make any ruffles? And do I want the classroom not to know that my child has DMD? What's your communication style, right? We're all different here. Our kids are all different. How do you communicate this information to your school? Would you prefer communicating by email? Would you prefer communicating in a smaller group? Would you prefer having one of your therapists accompany you or support you at the school to say, well, I am too emotional right now. I don't want to talk about the diagnosis, prognosis. I don't want to be present for that. And that's okay. Remember, parents, kids, you guys are in charge. We're here to help, we're here to support, and we're here to walk the journey with you. What supports do you need? Again, and what information do you need? So these are all considerations when you were talking about communication. One thing that I hear a lot from the school is be proactive in initiating discussions. Schools do not know what they do not know. So that being said, I often get called for school saying, well, you know, I'm working with Mrs. Smith and I just don't know what to do, right? So how can we help the school help us? Be proactive, initiate that communication and that contact. Being present, meeting with the school regularly, let them know what's happening. You don't have to divulge anything, but let them know if there's been a change. Let them know if there's been a new need. Attend the meetings. Don't be afraid to be present. Don't be afraid to include your child if you feel that they can do that. Be open and respectful. I don't know about anybody here, but when we're communicating, if we want to successfully communicate, we definitely want to be kind, be open, and be respectful. And that means also listening. We may have difference of opinions, but that's okay. What we need to do is we need to acknowledge that and we need to be respectful because we know it can be quite challenging to navigate the school system because like Allison mentioned, there is a shortage of staff. There is a shortage of available people to support. So what I may want as an individual or as a parent, as a child, may not be what they can give me. It doesn't mean they can't give it to me. It's just that they don't have the person, the money, or the resources to give it to me, which there we have to be a little bit more creative. Another part is share your strategies. You know your child better than anybody else. Share what works, what doesn't work, what you've had successes for. Communicate that information so we can transfer that in a school setting. Some parents really like a communication logbook to go back and forth with the school with regards to either sometimes it's bullying, sometimes it's what's happening in the classroom, sometimes it's just basic observations. I've worked a lot with clients where there's a lot of substitute teachers, there's a lot of other therapists or people in the classroom, and families are telling me, I'm tired of telling my story over and over and over and over again. I want them to read the IEP. I want them to read the IPRC. How come they don't know that my child can't open that door and can't press that button? Why is that happening? The reality in our world is that if you have a substitute teacher that comes into the classroom and she has 5 children with an IPRC or an IEP, excuse me, they won't have that an hour and a half to read all the specifics. So sometimes I encourage family and kids to create a 1-page log about who they are. Who am I? This is my name. These are my needs. This is how I navigate. And it's a quick reference for the teachers or the therapists that are working with your children. Have them be part of the information sharing. Have them be part of what you want on that 1 page. And it's a strategy that a lot of our families have done and have been successful. Moving over to accommodations in the school. A lot of our boys, as they evolve or progress, will require accommodations. I think a mom mentioned today that she was in a portable. Well, that's a big no-no, eh? Like we know that our kids, we're going to try to do a lot of energy conservation and we're going to try to place them in an environment which is conducive to what they need. Some of the accommodations that we can see in the school I always say to parents, in your IEP, that's your contract, that's your plan, that's your commitment with the school. So whatever you think you need, put it in your IEP. If it's not there, they're not accountable for it. Your IEP should be modifiable, should be changed as you and your child change and as you and your child needs. You're doing it in September, then by May, things may or may not have changed. Have them change that. Have a conversation with your school about that. EA support. Right? All our kids deserve to have EA support and have one-on-one. That varies throughout the school boards, that varies throughout the provinces. So what we need to do with EA support is we need to advocate for that. How do we advocate for that? Is we identify the needs and we get some of the supporting documents that Allison was sharing, get your OT to write an assessment, get your physician to document what exactly you need. We also like to see talking to the school about reducing the travel distance between the classroom and the washroom. So the child is more focused, more capable of concentrating in the classroom. So if they have to go three levels to get somewhere, or they're walking that and it's very difficult for them, we're burning a lot of energy cognitively and physically. So let's reduce that and let the school know that that's something that could be supportive. Other accommodations to think about in your IEP as needed is a plan for the fire safety and drill. If your child is on the second floor, what happens is if a drill? Who takes care of your child? How does he get downstairs if there's a real fire? So start thinking about these accommodations that you want to be able to write in your IEP. Plan for accessibility with field trips. Our kids want to be included. This is what I'm hearing in the 20 plus years that I've been at CHEO. Our kids want to do what every other child can and cannot do. So we need to start talking about that early on. So in your IEP, if they're planning trips, I'd say open the conversation. What is it that you need for my child to be able to participate? What adaptation? And I think Elijah said it beautifully. Tell me what I can do. Don't tell me what I can't do, right? And I'm a strong believer of that. And I believe that we have to make those accommodations and we have to keep the school accountable for those accommodations. Use of mobility equipment for safety and energy conservation. So the occupational therapist, either in the clinic or in the school board, can help navigate that and prescribe that when necessary. Also look at recess time. Some kids love going outside with their friends and having fun. Other kids don't, right? So let's look at alternative activities. Let's look at what does my child like? What does my child need? And put that in the IEP. Let the school know. Examples, they can stay in with friends. Sometimes what they do is they have board games, etc. More of an academic accommodation is to offer alternative to writing assignments, right? Have somebody scribe, have the teacher give your child the notes. Computer technology, all great ways to help and support our kids with DMD. Allow the child to do what he can and support as needed. Don't always do for. Let them do it themselves. Identify what the needs are. If they need support with dressing, we help. If they need support with transferring, we help. But let the school know that they can do that. And the child can also advocate for themselves. Also, some of the classroom modifications and activities, for example, gym class. Some of our kids love gym class. It's the one thing that they love. They just want it to be adapted so they can participate. So it's great to work with the therapist, with the parents and the care team to see, well, what would that look like? Still get the credit, but they're doing it a little bit differently. So this is another accommodation that we like to promote through these IEPs. Provide some extra time for assignment. For little children, right? Circle time. How many times does our kids in kindergarten get up, get down, get up, get down, get up, get down? They're energy conservation. So let's introduce a small chair and reduce some of the floor activities for them. Winter dressing, have a chair by the classroom, right? So have the child with DMD be the first one at the locker. Have a small chair so he doesn't have to go all the way to the end. So these are all physical accommodations that we can look at to implement in an IEP and that we may or may not consider when we're having conversations with the school. Also, a lot of our older children, they need an opportunity to rest during the day. Not everyone, but it's to give them that place to go or give them that classroom or that resource teacher that they can call upon if they need to. So let's work that into the IEP. An important component of navigating the school is to educate the school. I made reference to letting them know what's happening, letting them know what Duchenne muscular dystrophy, letting them know what that means for you, for your child, and for the future. So you have to make sure that the school has that knowledge of the profile. And also, I mentioned this many, many times, but it's always we need to reassess with this type of illness. We definitely need to let the school know every school year. So please, message to parents is participate in your IEPs. There's also raising awareness, right? So class presentations, booklets, pamphlets, information sharing, right? If your child is being bullied or if your child is being socially isolated, if your child's self-esteem is being affected, there are ways that your care team and your school team can support in that. So you need to let them know, you need to educate them. And I know there's a lot of organizations, like for example, Muscular Dystrophy Canada, they will go into the classroom and they will do an awareness presentation on muscular dystrophy if interested. So there are resources out there that are accessible to parents and children. And also, if you want to advocate at a higher level, right? I don't know how many people said to me, Mireille, you know, I can't get an EA in there. I can't make this happen. The school is saying they want to. They don't have the funding to do that. Well, we all have an MPP in our area. And that's raising awareness at a different level. And I know somebody made reference to that earlier this morning, is advocating in your own area for better services, for better funding, for better advocacy. Because I think all our children are worth it. And I'd love to see people take that phone call and say, you know what, we need more. Thank you for listening. And on a final note, I think one of the major take-home message that we wanted around navigating the school is that most people do have a care team that can advocate with you. Either advocate in person, advocate virtually, advocate with assessments or documentation, because we're there to support you. So thank you for listening. I don't know if anybody had any questions or if there's time for questions.
Everything that they said here today, do. I wish when we were newly diagnosed, we had all this information. I've been in it 6 years and I'm exhausted. But one thing that definitely is that medical component saying this is what they need, because I don't know how many times I'm told by my principal, if I have a doctor's note, then I can get the help, which is, yeah, I'll leave that one alone. I think we're all aware of the system right now. But I just wanted to say thank you very much. And I certainly learned a lot. And yeah, like I said, I wish I knew this 6 years ago. It probably would have saved me a lot of heartache.